Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. A maid, a desperate family, and a devious scheme. This week we're going back to 1968 for a romantic comedy called For Love of Ivy, starring Sidney Poitier, Abbey Lincoln, Beau Bridges, Laurie Peters, and Carol O'Connor. And this is directed by Daniel Mann. So, where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins in Long Island, New York. Ivy Moore, played by Abbey Lincoln, a 27-year-old African-American woman, has been working as a maid for a department store owning family named the Austins of Long Island, New York. After being raised by her grandmother in Florida, Ivy has been working for the Austin family for 9 years. Despite being treated as one of the family, but knowing there is nothing for her here, she announces her decision to leave her job. She desires to go to New York City, get her high school diploma, and then on to secretarial school to improve her situation. The Austins are desperate to keep her, and the teenagers, Jenna, played by Laurie Peters, and Tim, played by Beau Bridges, come up with a scheme to do so. Tim sets up Ivy with Jack Parks, played by Sidney Poitier, Partel's trucking company executive, to wine and dine Ivy. Knowing Jack runs an illegal gambling casino which operates at night in the back of a large, long-distance truck, Tim applies pressure to a reluctant Jack to date Ivy. A dinner at the Austins becomes awkward for the cosmopolitan Parks and less sophisticated Moore, but more pressure from Tim and Jenna. Jack is blackmailed into a second date to a Japanese restaurant and also an evening at a bohemian nightclub in Manhattan. Meanwhile, Tim and Jenna's parents, away at a buying show, are unaware of the goings-on. Stating to be a confirmed bachelor and not wanting to get married eventually, however, romance blossoms. Finding out about Jack's illegal gambling casino and being blackmailed into initially dating her, Ivy breaks up with him. So, does Jack have true feelings for Ivy or stay a swinging bachelor? Does Ivy head to New York City alone? Or does an illegal gambling casino get discovered by the authorities? The story was written by Sidney Poitier with screenwriter Robert Allen Arthur. And this film received 4 nominations and won Sidney Poitier Best Actor Prize in 1968 at the San Sebastian International Film Festival. And also, a Golden Globe Supporting Acting nominations for Beau Bridges and Abbey Lincoln. A For Love of Ivy soundtrack album by Quincy Jones was released in March of 1968. The musical score was composed by Quincy Jones, and the theme song For Love of Ivy, written by Quincy Jones and Rob Russell, was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song. And Roger Ebert, the film critic, stated, For Love of Ivy is a warm and delightful comedy. And I totally agree. I call this film excellent entertainment. And our trivia question this week, did someone who starred in our film wear something iconic during their career? Did someone who starred in our film wear something iconic during their career? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. This week for history, we're going to do one of the stars of our film, and that is Abbey Lincoln. Abbey Lincoln was a professional American jazz vocalist and songwriter. Although born Anna Marie Wooldridge in Chicago on August 6, 1930, she was raised in Calvin Center, Cass County, Michigan. Lincoln was one of the many singers influenced by Billie Holiday. A civil rights activist beginning in the 1960s, she made a career out of deeply felt presentations of standards, as well as writing and singing her own material. Her debut album in 1957, Abbey Lincoln's Affair, A Story of a Girl in Love, was followed by a series of albums for Riverside Records. In 1960, she sang on Max Roach's landmark civil rights themed recording, We Insist. And in 1970, a short film, Max and Abbey, profiled Lincoln as a composer, vocalist, actress, writer, and activist. During the 1980s, Lincoln's creative output was smaller and she released only a few albums. However, her song, For All We Know, is featured in the 1989 film, Drugstore Cowboy. During the 1990s, she fulfilled a 10-album contract with Verve Records. These albums are highly regarded and represent a crowning achievement in Lincoln's career. In fact, in 2003, Lincoln received a National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Master Award. Abbey Lincoln also had a film career. In 1956, Lincoln appeared in the film The Girl Can't Help It with Jane Mansfield, Nothing But a Man in 1964, and For Love of Ivy in 1968, and received a 1969 Golden Globe nomination for her appearance in the film. Television appearances began in 1968 with The Name of the Game, Mission Impossible in 1971, Marcus Welby MD in 1974, and All in the Family in 1978. She often visited the Blue Note Jazz Club in New York City, exploring more philosophical themes during the later years of her songwriting career. And Abbey Lincoln remained professionally active until well into her 70s. Pretty cool. And the answer to our trivia question this week: did someone who starred in our film wear something iconic during their career? Yes, and it was Abbey Lincoln. In 1956, Abbey Lincoln appeared in the film The Girl Can't Help It, for which she wore a dress that had been worn by Marilyn Monroe in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes in 1953. Interesting. And I hope you find my videos interesting. And if you do, could you please hit like and subscribe. And I'm going to leave you with a quick quote from Sidney, Poitier. I always wanted to be someone better the next day than I was the day before. A great motto to live by, don't you think? Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope to see you back next week.